Kansas City stands at a crossroads that every true championship contender eventually confronts. The roster is stacked with proven playmakers. The coaching staff commands league-wide respect. And the front office has earned deep trust through years of calculated, high-Q decisions. Yet two stubborn weaknesses remain weaknesses that could determine whether this season ends in a shower of confetti or in quiet. Bitter disappointment. The Chiefs organization now faces a decision that extends far beyond isolated games or week-to-week matchups. Their ground attack has failed to assert meaningful control in critical moments. Meanwhile, the interior defensive line continues showing soft spots that elite opponents will ruthlessly exploit when January arrives. These aren't minor tweaks. These are structural issues, core problems that must be resolved before the stakes become irreversible across the league. Front offices are weighing their futures against the ticking calendar. Some franchises will gamble everything for one final push. Others will quietly begin planning for next year. Kansas City has the personnel, the championship window, and the urgency to act now. Let's break down everything unfolding in Kansas City over the last few hours. Before we proceed, I'd like to ask for your support. If you're enjoying the insight, take 1 second to hit the like button. It truly helps. Thank you. As the November trade window approaches, Kansas City confronts operational realities that can no longer be dismissed. The offensive line struggles to generate consistent movement in short yardage scenarios. And the interior defensive line remains exposed, an issue that will grow even more dangerous in the postseason. These are not superficial repairs. They are foundational corrections the franchise must make before the margin for error disappears, instead of surrendering premium draft picks in exchange for uncertain upside. The organization could pursue a straightforward player-for-player swap, one immediate need exchange for another, preserving long-term flexibility while strengthening the roster right now. This strategy maintains the franchise's long-established blueprint while acknowledging the narrow competitive window that all contenders face. Meanwhile, Tennessee finds itself in a radically different position. A catastrophic start has effectively ended their playoff hopes before Halloween. The new regime appears open to examining all trade options involving players outside their core rebuild, especially if those moves bring back younger assets under contract control beyond this season. This philosophical divergence, Kansas City's urgency to win now versus Tennessee's long-term reconstruction, creates a natural trade pathway. Under this proposal, Kansas City would send cornerback Joshua Williams to Tennessee in exchange for defensive tackle Sebastian Joseph-Day. The structure is clean. The contracts are manageable. And the positional fits are obvious. Williams has shown legitimate NFL ability during his Kansas City tenure, possessing the technical refinement, physical tools, and competitive temperament that warrant continued opportunity. But the Chiefs have added waves of competition through both the draft and free agency, gradually pushing Williams down the depth chart despite his solid performance. With his role shrinking, exploring trade options benefits both his career trajectory and the Chiefs' immediate roster needs. Tennessee recently dismantled major parts of its secondary, sending starters Jarvis Brownlee Jr. and Roger McCreary to the Jets and Rams for late-round picks. Former Chiefs executive Mike Borgoni now oversees Tennessee's personnel decisions, giving the Titans familiarity with Williams' skill set. Despite lingering skepticism after the disappointing return on the L'Jarius Sneed trade, Borgoni's history evaluating Chiefs defensive backs could work in Williams' favor. The Titans simply need capable bodies who can compete immediately while they rebuild the back end of their defense, and Williams is a low-risk, high-experience addition for Kansas City. Joseph-Day provides something the current roster desperately lacks: a veteran interior presence who can stabilize the rotation without becoming a liability in passing downs. The position became dangerously thin after losing top draft pick Omar Monlot, leaving the Chiefs exposed at a spot postseason opponents will target without mercy. Placed next to Chris Jones rather than left to anchor a struggling Tennessee defense, Joseph-Day's effectiveness would surge. He offers reliable run defense, respectable pass rush contribution for a rotational player, and the experience to handle high-pressure situations with composure. Seeing Williams depart would be an unfortunate end to his Kansas City chapter. But championship windows close faster than anyone wants to admit. Addressing the defensive line deficiency outweighs sentiment. And importantly, the swap requires zero draft compensation. The move preserves salary cap flexibility while directly addressing the Chiefs' most glaring vulnerability heading into the stretch run. Kansas City simply cannot afford to enter the postseason without credible depth at defensive tackle. And this swap provides that security without sacrificing future assets. Meanwhile, another seasoned veteran continues to surface in league-wide trade chatter. A player whose arrival could redefine the identity of Kansas City's offense entirely. Connor, or if Sports Illustrated identified the Chiefs as a prime landing spot for additional backfield firepower. Despite their simultaneous need for defensive line reinforcements, his reasoning is simple: maximize the championship window now. Rather than waiting for future draft classes to blossom, the specific player or highlights comes from New Orleans, a franchise facing organizational uncertainty after a disappointing stretch, and the asking price appears surprisingly reasonable given the player's established resume. Alvin Kamara is the proposed target, though Kamara has publicly expressed hesitation about leaving the Saints, or reframes his value not as a traditional between-the-tackles runner, but as a matchup nightmare and offensive weapon perfectly suited for Kansas City's motion-heavy system. In Ora's estimation, Kamara could replicate the type of role Tyreek Hill once dominated in short yardage and third-down situations, where his acceleration and lateral burst against linebackers create nearly automatic conversions. The proposed compensation involves a 2026 fifth-round pick and a conditional 2027 sixth-rounder selections that rarely become impact starters for a franchise that consistently drafts near the bottom of each round due to sustained success. Considering Kansas City's history of uncovering talent throughout the draft, surrendering these late picks represents a minimal long-term cost for significant short-term upgrade. Kamara has remained consistently productive throughout his NFL career, every season spent with New Orleans, despite the franchise's broader instability. Through the first 8 weeks, Kamara has logged 363 rushing yards on 100 attempts, showcasing continued efficiency despite its advancing age by running back standards and the Saints' offensive disarray. But it's beyond the run game where Kamara becomes truly dangerous. His receiving ability and high-level football IQ unlock schematic advantages that extend Andy Reid's play-calling arsenal. Kamara thrives when aligned outside the tackle box, generating mismatches against slower linebackers and forcing defenses to reveal their pre-snap intentions through personnel movement. That versatility fuels more motion concepts, layered misdirection, and empty set packages, leading to explosive plays against defenses scrambling to diagnose their assignments. Currently, Kansas City lacks a genuine receiving specialist at running back, limiting their ability to stretch defenses horizontally while still threatening vertically. Kamara fills that void perfectly, offering receiver-level route precision and reliable hands, effectively serving as a legitimate third receiving option on clear passing downs. His specific skill set also shortens the typical adjustment period required for mid-season acquisitions, since Reid could deploy him in targeted packages rather than requiring mastery of the full offensive system. Of course, practical obstacles remain. Kamara's contract carries notable salary implications. The Saints must be willing to part with a franchise cornerstone, and Kamara himself would need to embrace a mid-season relocation. But when the football merits are evaluated in isolation, the pairing looks ideal. Kansas City gains a versatile matchup weapon who instantly eases the workload on Pacheco and Hunt while adding dimensions this offense currently cannot threaten. For the modest compensation, or suggests, the move represents a calculated gamble with substantial upside and limited downside. On the defensive side, a high-ceiling pass rusher has emerged as the potential finishing touch to this championship-caliber roster. While Kansas City will undoubtedly explore multiple avenues to bolster the interior defensive line, the most impactful trade deadline additions often come from the most impactful trade deadline moves typically involve edge rushers capable of generating immediate havoc. And among the realistic candidates available, Jalen Phillips of the Miami Dolphins stands out as a high-upside target whose contract structure and team circumstances make him attainable for any contender willing to invest. Modest draft capital. Phillips is currently playing under the fifth-year option of his rookie deal, framework that has paid out nearly $28 million since Miami drafted him, 16th overall in 2021. His career arc, however, has been complicated by major medical setbacks, a torn Achilles in 2023, followed by an ACL tear in 2024. Yet his pre-injury production showcased genuine impact player ability. Across 42 games before those injuries, Phillips recorded 52 quarterback hits, 24 tackles for loss, 22 sacks. It's numbers that project to elite annual production over a fully healthy season. This year, Phillips has started all 8 games for Miami, offering the durability and availability that front offices must verify before investing assets in a player with his medical history. His sack total just 2 through 8 weeks may appear underwhelming to casual fans, but the deeper analytics tell a different story. Pro Football Focus credits Phillips with 27 total pressures and 21 hurries, revealing constant disruption even when sacks don't materialize. His 80.4 pass rush grade ranks 14th among 19 qualifying edge defenders, placing him solidly within dependable starting caliber performance despite Miami's defensive struggles. The Dolphins, 2-6. Collapse has effectively ended their playoff hopes and positioned them as likely sellers before the November 4th deadline. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler has already reported significant league interest in several Miami players, including Jalen Waddle and pass rushers Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. Organization must now decide which pieces align with their long-term blueprint and which assets should be converted into draft capital while their value remains high. Phillips is a logical trade candidate. Given Miami's cap constraints and roster reconstruction challenges, they may hesitate to commit long-term financial resources to retain him once his current deal expires. Meanwhile, contending teams can justify him as a mid-round draft investment with instant postseason impact, creating organic demand across the league. For Kansas City specifically, Phillips brings a skill set that fits perfectly. He can complement Chris Jones in sub-packages, handle rotational edge responsibilities, and generate steady pressure through technique, intelligence, and athleticism, not merely raw power. But his value extends far beyond sacks. Phillips offers true schematic versatility, sets the edge against power run schemes, bends the corner with natural fluidity on speed rushes, operates in sub-packages where his athleticism overwhelms tight ends or tackles who struggle with lateral quickness. That versatility is invaluable for a defense that must constantly counter offenses built on motion, misdirection, and matchup manipulation. A consistent edge threat forces offensive tackles into honest vertical sets, which widens interior rushing lanes and gives Chris Jones more clean one-on-one opportunities to dominate. Phillips' ability to win on the perimeter would instantly elevate the entire Chiefs' defensive front. Of course, obstacles remain. His contract requires clarity regarding Kansas City's willingness to negotiate an extension. Cap logistics must be managed carefully, given the franchise's existing long-term commitments. And Miami's front office must decide whether moving Phillips aligns with their broader rebuilding philosophy. Even so, the likely compensation required for Phillips should remain within reach for a franchise prioritizing its current championship window over distant theoretical futures. The truth is simple. The Chiefs cannot afford to enter the playoffs without multiple credible edge rush threats. And among the few established veterans realistically available, Jalen Phillips offers the strongest blend of immediate availability, scheme versatility, and reasonable acquisition cost. So the question becomes, could Jalen Phillips be the game-changing edge rusher Kansas City needs to complete their Super Bowl roster? Share your thoughts below. Is Phillips worth the calculated risk to fuel a championship run? Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and join the community for exclusive daily coverage. We'll keep you informed on every major development out of Kansas City. See you next time.